sipping on that ginseng this morning, and I had some divine insight to discuss this idea of how energy is actually created in the body and how you can maximize your feelings of energy throughout your day and from day to day in all activities and endeavors in which you desire to embark upon. We're going to discuss nutrition. We're going to discuss herbs. We're going to discuss how stress can play a role, sleep, mindset, all of that in this video. So, there's a lot of misconceptions about energy production, about how food is converted into energy, carbohydrates and energy, eating oatmeal before a workout, and how that's supposedly going to boost your glycogen or your glucose or something in a meaningful way within an hour, which is just insane. There's all sorts of crazy things. Also, this idea that caffeine doesn't increase energy; it only it actually takes away energy. So, a lot of misconceptions. Let's kind of get into it. So, first of all, there are multiple ways your body creates energy. Okay, there is physical energy. Okay, from the food that you're consuming. There is neural energy, I guess we can call it, neural drive, neurotransmitters that create sensations and feelings of energy. These neurotransmitters also have the side effect of causing your body to not only feel energy on the level of neurotransmitters, think something like caffeine or a dopamine agonist, but they also can cause the body to release stored physical energy from the fat cells. Okay. So a lot of people, they assume that the only way that you can get real energy is by consuming food, right? Consuming carbohydrates for glucose and glycogen, and but people don't realize that energy is a subjective experience, and without neurotransmitters, there's no movement, and thus whatever stored energy you might have will not be released. But most people, when they talk about energy, what they really mean is the sensation of having the capacity to do work, or having the capacity to get up and go, feel motivated, right? Feel the urge to move, or feel the ability to be able to move if they needed to do so, right? So let's kind of dive a little bit deeper into all of this, okay? So let's start with food, okay? How food is kind of turned into energy, right? So food obviously gives our body the building blocks to create living tissue. So protein for things like your muscle tissue. Proteins also contribute to the building block, being the building block of your connective tissue, your bones. Also, your neurotransmitters are actually created from protein. And enzymes, which are required to digest food. Enzymes are also required to convert neurotransmitters from their inactive forms or their lower forms on the cascade to their higher forms. So think phenylalanine from protein converts to tyrosine, and then L-DOPA, and then eventually dopamine, noradrenaline, and then adrenaline. Okay. Obviously, there's other things on that cascade like thyroxine and thyroid hormone, but you do get your neurotransmitters that are responsible for motivation and happiness and energy from protein, as well as your entire body. Your entire body structure is made from protein. So what about carbohydrates? So carbohydrates you consume from food, okay? And depends on the source, but to simplify it, the two primary pathways that carbohydrates go down is that of a primarily glucose carbohydrate, and then a primarily fructose. Okay, so fructose has a completely different, it's metabolized completely differently than glucose. There are several other steps in the cascade, mostly having to do with how it's processed in the liver, and not saying either is better or worse than the other, but they both basically fulfill the needs of glycogen as well as blood glucose, so liver glycogen, glycogen in the muscle, and blood glucose, okay, is essentially where they eventually end up. Now, there's some things that people don't really take into account with carbohydrate consumption that can completely ruin their perception and approach to effective managing of energy and nutrition for energy. The first thing is that, okay, so people think if they eat a banana before a workout, like an hour before a workout, that it's automatically going to provide them energy for their muscles to use during a workout. The fact is, a banana, it depends on the ripening of it. So a banana is going to have a completely different composition of carbohydrate types depending upon its stage in the ripeness. So the least ripe a banana is, right, the more green it is. First of all, if you're eating green bananas for any reason, whether you think it's to boost your gut microbiome, I did a whole hour-long video about that. That's fucking stupid. Or to boost your energy for a workout. Green bananas are very hard for the human stomach to digest. Humans are not meant to eat green bananas. No animal is meant to eat an unripened fruit, okay? And that should be apparent considering unripe fruit. So we're talking about green bananas here, okay? But all unripened fruit, but specifically green bananas. Number one, they're extremely hard, okay, for a reason, because they're not bloomed into an edible plant yet. The carbohydrates are mostly extremely fibrous, extremely dense. They're in physical appearance and form, but also as they're metabolized, more closer to a damn potato than anything. Okay, that's why they're so hard and dense. The majority of the carbohydrates in a banana in its unripened form, think about green bananas, are starch. They're starch, and it's mostly resistant starch, actually. If you know about plantains, you ever seen one of those? It's more closer to a potato, similar to a unripened banana, actually. So if you eat a damn unripened banana raw, all that's gonna happen is you're probably gonna have stomach pain, stomach's gonna bloat up like crazy, and you're gonna fart a lot because your body can't digest the carbs in the banana in its unripened form. That's why a lot of biohacking people, because they're operating from the reductionist scientific standpoint, they eat like green bananas and stuff because they think that it's going to improve their gut health, which is a meaningless term, no scientific definition. Anyway, yeah, in the unripened form, banana is mostly resistant starch. As it ripens, the carbohydrates become more easily digestible starches, and then over time, when you start to see the banana is developing black spots, so a lot of people, they avoid the black spots, because they have a irrational disgust factor involved in the mushiness of the banana. But all that's happening is the banana is becoming easier to digest and safe for you to eat. Something I didn't mention is green bananas and unripened fruit actually has the most anti-nutrients in it. Not to say anti-nutrients are as dangerous as a lot of these carnivore crazy people make you think. But yeah, there's a lot of anti-nutrients and undigestible carbohydrates in unripened form. The more it ripens, it turns yellow and then eventually has black spots, and the actual flesh gets softer. Then it's a lot more sucrose, fructose, um, uh, and a little bit of starch still. And it's more easily digestible. Okay. And so the more of those carbohydrates are, you know, sucrose and fructose, the faster it's actually metabolized in the body. Whereas the more of it is still kind of starch, the longer it's going to take for your body to digest and absorb and metabolize. So what I'm getting at here is, you know, it's a lot more nuanced than just being like, yeah, I'm just going to eat a banana before a workout because bananas are fast digesting carbs. Anybody who classifies a food as just complex carb, simple carb, or fast digesting carb, slow digesting carb, they they're just kind of repeating shit that they heard. Like, and you know that's 99% of people watching this video probably never knew all this stuff. They never knew that there was that much involved. Like literally how ripe the banana is can change the quickness of digestion by a magnitude of hours. An unripened banana can take like 8 hours to fucking digest. And then like one that has black spots or is more black, like the black spots are like they taste and look like brown sugar because the composition is closer to a faster digesting sugar in that regard. Let's just say, okay, I'm trying to simplify here. So anyway, the really ripe bananas with all the black spots might take 2 hours from 2 to 4 hours to digest, whereas the unripened maybe 8 or more. So yeah, so already you can see that creating energy from food is not everything that most people think it is. And this would explain why so many people they start their fucking day off with like a big bowl of cereal, skim milk with bananas chopped up or whatever, and wonder why they feel like shit 2 or 3 hours later. A lot of reasons why, but anyway, so that's the first thing, okay? Is, the freaking time it takes for your body to even digest and absorb the food can vary depending upon the ripeness of the food. Also, the combinations involved. If you have, let's say a fast digesting carbohydrate, let's just say brown sugar, but you mix it with butter, okay? That butter is going to slow the absorption and digestion. And yeah, I would never do that. I would never mix those two together. But so let's kind of get back on track here, okay? The other thing that a lot of people miss is even if your body did digest that banana within like an hour, okay, and it was already digested before your workout, which the fiber content of the banana and all this other stuff is going to prolong it. The other thing people don't understand is when you're doing a workout, okay, your body is burning up blood glucose, but also stored glycogen from the day before. Most people's workouts, the energy that they're burning is not really created from the food that they're eating per se. Now, yeah, if you eat some fast digesting carbs around your workout time, your body's going to burn that first before it burns other things. But people who think like muscle glycogen for things like resistance training, okay? Your body is mostly burning stored glycogen and glucose from the last 3 days of eating starches and things like that. The other thing is glycogen and glucose will be produced whether you eat carbs or not. A lot of people have the misconception they think that if they go on a ketogenic diet or if they don't eat any dietary carbs at all, or especially the day of their workout, that their muscles are somehow just going to lack energy to actually function. The fact is, the lack of energy and performance the first 3 weeks of a ketogenic or low carb diet has very little to do with a lack of production of glucose and glycogen, and a lot more to do with the adaptation process and mostly fluid retention, things like salt and sodium that occur during the first 3 weeks of keto adaptation. And that is verified by long-term studies on ketogenic athletes, which have been studied in a lab. But most people who advocate high-carb diets, they, for some reason, refuse to even look at that evidence. They ignore it and act like it doesn't exist. But yeah, your body doesn't need to eat carbs to produce glycogen or glucose. Just another kind of thought on another kind of rant on that. Do you realize if your body could not produce its own glucose or glycogen at any point in time, you realize you would drop dead? Do you realize how many processes in the body rely on glucose and glycogen? A lot of people, experts especially, this drives me crazy. Okay, everyone takes this for granted because everyone's ignorant. Okay, people hear these experts saying your brain requires glucose in order to fuel itself. Your brain requires glucose for energy. That's why you feel tired when you don't eat carbs. You realize if your brain ran out of glucose, brain cells would die, you idiot. What that means is that you would literally die. You would have a seizure and you would drop fucking dead if your brain wasn't getting glucose. Okay? What that means is people don't just drop dead when they stop eating carbs. The brain is getting glucose and it's also getting ketones, obviously, in a ketogenic state. But the point I'm trying to make is that your body does create its own glucose and glycogen endogenously from other sources when you don't eat carbs. So anyway, I'm gonna explain that here in a second. But let me finish the carb thing. When you're adapted to eating a high carb diet, okay, your body doesn't burn the carbs you eat the day of. Your body burns the stored glycogen in the liver and the muscle tissue from days prior. The other thing is, even heavy, hardcore resistance training doesn't burn as much glycogen as people assume. People assume that they need to eat 300 to 500 grams of carbs every day, or else they're not going to be able to get through their 5x5 strength training program, or their Arnold Schwarzenegger 5x10 or whatever the hell that they're doing. They think, if I don't freaking eat 500 grams of carbs a day and then freaking munch on Laffy Taffy and Sweet Tarts during my workout, like people sip Gatorade and they drink these like sugar drinks in the middle of their workout because they take maltodextrin powders after training because they think that their hour of like weightlifting, okay, as a noob, only lifting for the first 2 freaking years, or not even lifting much weight at all, they think that they're not going to have enough glycogen to fuel their workouts. It's crazy, man. The things I've seen working at gyms for over a decade now. It's crazy. Nah, man. Your body maybe burns 100 grams of total glucose coming from glycogen and other carb sources in a relatively intense 2-hour workout. And that obviously is just a very general statement, okay? It depends on so many different factors. It goes against a lot of what people have been told by people who are trying to sell you workout programs and books and shit. But basically, what I'm trying to get at is, and the thing is, let's just say hypothetically that 100 grams of carbs or glucose or whatever and glycogen in that 2-hour workout, okay? Let's say you do only burn 100 grams of glucose, okay, in a 2-hour workout. Let's just say that's just a general thing, number I threw out. That doesn't come from the fucking banana you ate before or the juice you're drinking during the workout. I mean, yeah, if you're drinking a fast digesting carb during a workout, it'll preferentially burn that. That's a fact. But the majority of the glucose that your body actually burns, of that 100 grams, like, you realize your body can produce up to 200 grams of glucose inside of itself per day on a high carb diet. And then when you eat a ketogenic diet, your body actually can produce up to 400 to 600 grams of glucose endogenously per day. So, yeah. A lot of that glucose your body's burning might not even be from the food that you're eating. Okay, it could be from pyruvate from the Cori cycle. It can be from the glycerol backbone of triglycerides. Free fatty acids and adipose tissue can actually convert into glucose and glycogen. People don't want to hear that. They'll think I'm full of crap, but it's a fact. And of course, in a state of severe malnutrition and catabolism, your body can convert amino acids from muscle tissue into glucose. Okay. The keto zealots assume that when you eat too much protein, it automatically gets converted into sugar, like as if it was chocolate cake. But that's not true either. So, yeah. So you don't need to be eating oatmeal before your workout to try to produce energy, physical energy. You don't need to freaking drink Gatorade throughout your workout. You don't need to even eat all day long. You can literally do what I do. I eat 1 meal a day. It's pretty much 2 meals a day at this point because of all the food I have to eat. My eating window is from like 9:30, 10 p.m. until 12 midnight. So I have a 2-hour eating window per day, where I eat 2 to 3 pounds of meat, and then I'll slam. These days I'm doing yogurt and some other things. So anyway, yeah, and I train like 3 times a day, just depending on the day. When my schedule allows for it, I try to train 2 to 3 hours of jujitsu during the day. Usually one session early in the day and another one in the evening or nighttime. And then I also do my weight training, which is very heavy strength training. Anyway, yeah. So your body can take carbohydrates that you ate 3 days prior, okay, and is stored as glycogen and liver glycogen and whatnot, and then it can burn it in during workouts and stuff. All right, so man, this video is already pretty long. I apologize, y'all. The next thing, fat from your food. Okay, so your body can, so fat can be converted into ketones. Okay, dietary fat. Dietary fat can also be converted, believe it or not, into glucose later on down the line. The glycerol backbone of triglycerides and free fatty acids can be converted into glucose via gluconeogenesis. Of course, that is going to vary depending upon whether you're fasted or not, how hard you're training, and then how many carbohydrates you're consuming as well. The body only converts non-glucose substrates into glucose when it's in a severe deficit. So, like if you haven't eaten anything in like a week, or if you're in a ketogenic state. Okay. So yeah, there's that. So other things that's the first thing. That's how your body produces physical energy, and then of course it's converted into ATP, and ATP is your body's primary source of physical energy. So now let's talk about caffeine. Okay, and there's a lot of other things I haven't mentioned here. There's sodium, other things, but let's talk about caffeine, okay? Because this is kind of going to give you all an understanding of the neurological side of energy, okay? The physical side of energy is just stored energy that when you do something, you burn, right? Your body always has a steady supply of glucose, whether you eat carbs or not. Because if it didn't, your brain would literally die off, okay? Your brain cells would die off. Your muscles cannot contract without some form of glucose running through the circulation. Anyone who tells you you need to eat carbs for glucose or glycogen, they're overgeneralizing, and they probably are too ignorant to even know what the fuck they said, okay? Not saying carbs are bad. I'm just saying you don't need them for glucose or glycogen production. But if you eat carbs, they will be burned as glucose and glycogen. These are facts, okay? It is not a fact that you need to eat carbs in order to produce glucose and glycogen. As crazy as it sounds, okay? But I'm also not telling you not to eat carbs. I'm just saying, like, you don't need them. People can't handle that. Like, no, like I gotta have my damn like cereal all day or whatever. I gotta keep eating carbs throughout the day. Like, okay, whatever you say. All right, so now let's talk about caffeine. This is a major, major area of misinformation. I need to chug this elixir before I get into this, but I'm gonna start you all off so you don't lose focus. Listen, caffeine increases neurotransmitters in the circulation. It agonizes neurotransmitters. Okay, it produces the release of neurotransmitters that makes you feel energetic. It causes your body to naturally, at rest, burn more energy overall. Okay, so we're talking non-exercise activity thermogenesis or whatever. You're neat. Okay. It causes you to move more and be more animated. It causes a desire to move more, which is the freaking definition of energy that most people are really using. It increases the release of dopamine and adrenaline, which are two neurotransmitters, but that by definition are responsible for the feelings of energy that we seek. Anytime you go and exercise, okay, adrenaline and dopamine are being released to keep you exercising. And in fact, did you know the feelings of tiredness and fatigue and lethargy after a hard training session are induced by dopamine agonists? So serotonin, really. Not that serotonin is, in my mind, serotonin is a dopamine agonist, but it's not necessarily. But yeah, serotonin is actually the neurotransmitter that makes you feel lethargic, flat, and like laying down. Okay. And just a little side note on that: people who think that turkey is a cause of like tiredness on Thanksgiving, that's fucking wrong. All protein sources have a high level of tryptophan in them. And turkey's not even the highest one. That's another myth people fucking repeat, and they just read someone's blog post and assume it's the truth. Stupid. Anyway, dopamine and adrenaline, they are released in response to caffeine intake. They are released in response to the first 10 to 15 minutes of a moderately vigorous cardiovascular exercise, okay? They are released in order to cause your body to increase blood flow and get moving and to be energized. People who say, oh, caffeine doesn't actually give you energy, it actually takes away energy. That's not true. You have to ask the question, what is energy? It's the desire to move, the motivation to move. Okay, the motivation to do things. It is the burning of energy and the feeling of energy and the having of energy. So the first thing is that it causes your body to release neurotransmitters that make you feel more energized by default. So the second thing, and this is what people are gonna be rebutting in the comments and be like, well, Wolfgang, like the causing you to burn more energy makes you lose energy. Like, well, yeah, exercising gives you more energy as well. But it also burns energy. So you're saying exercise is not a good strategy to improve energy? But here's the other thing. Caffeine also causes your body to release more fat for energy, as well as glucose as well. But it causes your body to free up more energy to be available to be burned from exercise and mental tasks as well. So one of the main reasons why people take caffeine in fitness is not just to improve their energy to work out, but also it's one of the only effective supplements for fat loss. Okay, well, and I take that back. There's a lot of supplements out there that haven't been proven clinically in their short-term, like 2 week, like not even 2 week, like 1 day study or whatever. to burn fat, or 2 week study, or whatever it is. Okay, but caffeine's one of the most proven supplements to increase fat loss. Why is that? Because caffeine increases your metabolic rate, which increases your body's burning of fat for energy. That's the thing. Okay. And so by definition, it's freeing up more energy to be burned, and from your fat tissue too. Like, so most people, so you have 40 to, like most lean people, let's say you're 10% body fat. Okay. Obviously, this is another generalized statement, but just hear me out. On average, at the minimum, most people that are 10% body fat have at least 40,000 calories worth of stored body fat. That's a lot of fucking calories. That can fuel someone for several weeks. Okay. So, so caffeine increases the release of those 40,000 calories of stored body fat to be burned as energy. It's literally causing your body to not only have more energy in your neurotransmitters being released, dopamine and adrenaline, but also energy being released from fat cells that you can burn, physical energy as well. So caffeine increases your neural energy as well as your physical energy, okay? But people are like, nah, caffeine, man, it takes away your energy, okay? And that's when we get into sleep and other things too. But, people talk about cortisol as like this dangerous thing that is like, is only bad, right? People can't think nuance. They can't think, oh, it's got some effects that can be good or bad. People are just like, nah, cortisol, man, it'll kill you, make you fat, and all this crap. It's not true. Cortisol is actually a catabolic hormone, mostly. Okay, I had an interview with one of my friends who reversed his leukemia, and he was talking about how he was eating like 5 pizzas a day when he was on this cortisone treatment or whatever, because he couldn't keep weight on and he was just excessively hungry and angry all the time. But cortisol actually increases the breakdown. Like, cortisol's primary objective, okay, one of its primary mechanisms is actually being released to increase the breakdown of fatty tissue and to be utilized as energy. So, yeah. All right. So that's like the two kind of things, the two kind of ideas I want y'all to start to contemplate in regards to energy. So I'm gonna drink this real quick. Yeah. All right. So now let's talk about some other aspects of energy. Actually, I think I'm going to make this video 2 parts or 3 parts, because I spent so much time talking about the physical kind of creation of energy. A lot of people are going to listen to this and be like, they're not going to be able to listen to a whole 3-hour video detailing every aspect of energy. Well, I guess Andrew Huberman doesn't is successful, so why can't I? I don't know. But anyway, yeah. So another thing about this is that you can increase your body's utilization of energy through exercise and different kind of dietary strategies, okay? So, first of all, keep in mind, your body is not fragile. Your body is constantly trying to adapt to the demands placed upon it. So, exercise, where does exercise play a role in increasing your energy? When you go out and let's just say you do an hour-long walk or any type of activity, it could be dancing, it could be pacing back and forth in between weight training, okay? Any kind of constant movement is training your body to increase its capacity to do more constant movement. So the reason why cardiovascular exercise is supposed to improve your energy is because it's supposed to improve your work capacity. So if you take somebody who does a sedentary job and sits on their ass all day, and then you suddenly try to make them do a waiter job where they're walking around a restaurant waiting on tables and stuff, right? they are going to have a hard time even doing their waiter job or waitress job for the first hour because their body is adapted to sitting on their ass all day. Okay. Um, Conversely, you take someone who never does any exercise, right, and they sit on their ass all day, and they go on a vacation to like Las Vegas or something where they're walking around shopping malls all day and stuff. Their feet are gonna hurt. They're gonna feel exhausted. They're gonna be crying and complaining the whole fucking time because their body is literally not adapted to be able to do that walking. Keep in mind, human beings, like for the majority of our evolution, have been walking around, adventuring around outside, all this kind of stuff, because our survival depended upon it. And even farmers and stuff. So in the exercise science community, we talk about farmer strength and how if you ever have known an athlete who grew up on a farm, any athlete who grew up on a freaking farm becomes like a elite level superior athlete when they actually apply themselves to a real sport. Okay. Or somebody who's done sports for the majority of their life, or as a kid or whatever, even if it wasn't serious, later on in life are able to take up way more extreme kind of endeavors because they built their work capacity through their younger years to be able to do so. This is also why, like, as you get older, you notice you naturally have less energy, you have more back pain, you have less tolerance for physical activity as you get older. It's not because of hormones and shit. It's because when you're a kid, at least back in my fucking day, but I don't know. I think these days it's going more towards weakness. But okay, back in my day, y'all, when I was a youngin', um, we had a recess that was like mandatory. I was all, at least for me, I was climbing trees, jumping all over the place. Okay, children tend to be way more active just naturally. That's really the human condition, how we're supposed to be anyway. And it's kind of like a natural part of younger humans' routines is to like run around, be more active. But when you get into your 20s, you have a normal job, you're in college, you have a lot of priorities that revolve around sitting on your fucking ass and doing nothing. What happens to your work capacity and your physical capacity for energy when you sit on your ass all day? Your body adapts to being fucking lazy. Okay? This is a metaphorical principle of physics, but an object in motion stays in motion or whatever. That's how you got to think about this, okay? An object that is in motion stays in motion or whatever. It's momentum, right? But really, your body will adapt itself to being lazy and wanting to be more lazy. The more you put your body in lazy activities and circumstances. When I say lazy, I don't mean like lazy. If you're doing schoolwork or you're making a shit ton of cash or whatever, sitting on your ass, that's not lazy. That's badass. It's productive, and I respect that. But I'm just saying, as far as like having energy, okay, if you are not moving around all day, your body will not be adapted to moving around all day. So, to think that you can just go from every day just like sitting down on the computer doing work to suddenly going to a trip in Las Vegas where you're walking around for 3 hours at a time, okay, and then survive that shit without feeling incredibly fatigued is silly. Because people, when they think of this, when they think of exercise and energy and exercising to get energy, they don't realize, like, walking around at a shopping mall, it is the same thing as like if you were to walk on a treadmill at a gym as far as your body's adaptation is concerned. Okay. You're not like, if you don't have energy for activities that require walking around all day or whatever, even standing, like, I'm a personal trainer. Okay. half of my day, like 6 hours of my day, I'm like walking around the gym, like being animated, yelling at people, showing different exercises and things, pacing back and forth. When I first started working at a commercial gym mostly, because when I was doing, if you do independent, you can just, whatever. Man, I was exhausted, right? And people doing a waiter job, they're exhausted at first. Even just standing up as a cashier, you'll be exhausted. Okay. That's because it requires physical capacity and adaptations that you might not be adapted for. So another thing I want to kind of mention on this is like, have you ever had the sensation of, okay, so people who work a desk job, they might be looking at their computer screen and talking to customers or whatever. They're not physically active, but they're mentally focused and engaged for a long period of time. So this is neurotransmitter activity that is being fatigued, okay? So when you focus for a long period of time, okay? Especially your eyes, when your eyes are like glaring at a computer screen all day, that can fatigue the eyes. And when your eyes are fatigued, it makes your eyelids feel heavy and it reminds you of sleepiness subconsciously. And so you feel that way. But in reality, your eyes might just be fatigued and it's not really you know, a real energy deficit. But again, this is the thing I'm telling y'all. Feeling tired doesn't mean you lack physical energy or carbs or whatever. Feeling tired is largely a neurochemical thing. So, just having your eyes like extremely fatigued or overworked or whatever can make you feel sensations that feel like you haven't slept in weeks. So, and the other thing is like if you ever hyper focus for a long ass time, there is a crash that happens after 4 to 8 hours of just heavy focus. Like I've had session, for me, I actually feel energized after I hyper focus, but yeah, that's mostly because you've taken your dopamine and adrenaline and neuroadrenaline, your neurotransmitters responsible for energy and motivation focus, and you've channeled it into a activity that just fully like fatigued those neurotransmitters after like an 8 hour stretch. And after that shit, man, you need to do some freeing to your mind or go and do a physical run or something to let your mind relax. And so that's another thing. Like people when they hyper focus and they feel tired or burnt out from hyper focusing, what they find is if they go and they do a run or some kind of workout, they notice that they feel rejuvenated. Why is that? That's because um your neurotransmitters associated with focus were fatigued, and now you're giving them a break because you're freeing your mind now. And when you go and you work out, your brain is able to just like kind of go wherever. So this is another thing. A lot of people in our society are lacking that freeing of the mind because they go from hyper focusing on like their work, whatever their job actually is, marketing, sales, whatever, even working the front desk at a gym and talking to people all day. And then they go to something like scrolling through social media. And so their brain goes from hyper fixating on one thing or whatever to now hyper fixating on a million things every minute, right? Because you're scrolling through dogs and Instagram girls in bikinis or whatever, your friends' family photos and all this other crazy shit. Like 60 different topics in a matter of like several seconds scrolling through a news feed. So your brain gets in this hypnotic state where it never is able to relax, okay? You're constantly... So anyway, that's why, scrolling through social media and stuff can leave you feeling fatigued. And that's also why meditation can make you feel energized. So, yeah, stress can ruin your energy. Herbs can help your energy. Lots of things can help your energy. So we're going to get into like the more inspirational sources of energy in the next video, okay? But like these are some things that you got to understand as far as energy is concerned. Is like um a lot of people, they feel fucking tired because they're eating too much carbs throughout the day, really, and it's sending their insulin levels all over the place. They assume they need carbs in order to like feel energetic, and if they feel low on energy, they go and eat a banana to think that it's going to boost their energy. When really, if your main goal is energy, you should eat predominantly protein and get into a schedule. And obviously, carbs and fats are important. Don't get me wrong, but protein should be a priority. Your ideal body weight in grams of protein total throughout the day, doesn't matter when you eat it, but you want to intuitively ping your carbs, is what I believe you should do. Okay. Don't listen to these people who give you a certain number that's just general for everyone. You want to find the times of the experiment. If you normally eat carbs first thing in the morning, just feel tired 3 hours later, try not eating carbs in the morning. If you're not hungry in the morning and you eat, don't eat if you're not fucking hungry. Try to get into an intuitive structuring of your food. That's what I had to eventually do. Because I noticed when I was eating throughout the day, I used to always feel like crap. But when I was completely keto throughout the day also, after a certain point in time, I wasn't feeling as good as I wanted to, unless I was slamming the MCT oil and stuff like that. And so, anyway, yeah, you got to experiment. So we'll talk more about that in the next video. But yeah, the big thing I want to get across in this one was how energy is created from your physical body, or as an energy source physically, but then also the fact that there is the neurochemical aspect of energy as well, right? When you have dopamine in your circulation, okay, it makes you want to chase things. That's what dopamine's for. When you have adrenaline release in the system, it makes you want to run away from things. Dopamine and adrenaline are neurotransmitters that are directly responsible for your feelings of energy. And so, if you're stressed, you're going to be producing a lot more adrenaline, and that can make you feel fatigued, okay? Feelings of just anxiety and hypochondria and all this other crap can make you feel very fatigued. If you're constantly like, a lot of people are very unaware of their thought process. If you're constantly thinking about, oh shit, like what bad things might happen. Oh my God, this, I'm so scared that, if you're constantly thinking about things you're afraid of or you're worrying about things, you're going to feel tired all the time as well. A lot of people, let's say if you don't get enough sleep or whatever, they feel tired from the worrying about how their lack of sleep is going to impact them a lot more than their lack of sleep itself. But the problem with these nocebo type concepts is that a lot of people are so deep in their nocebo that they can't rise above it. Once you believe like something seriously is impacting you in a negative way, it'd be very hard to shake it off, even if you fully intend to do so. Anyway, read the book The Expectation Effect by David Robson for more on that one. But yeah, I'm gonna wrap it up here. Next video is gonna be about herbs and supplements and other things to actually improve your energy and more of solutions. This one's more about the mechanism. So hopefully this helped. Leave your question, comments down below, and I'll talk to you all next time.